Hello, welcome to week 6 of English 102. I wanted to go over a couple items about the annotated bibliography. For some reason, this assignment tends to give students just a little bit of trouble. And I think it isn't because it's difficult, but I think it's just kind of coming to terms in your mind with how this fits in with what we've been doing. If you'll remember, we started the course, really building upon our literary analysis, starting with, remembering the literary terms that are used. We started exploring literary theories. We've already looked at sources from the GMC library that talk about the stories that we have been reading. You guys have dug into the stories and really looked for text evidence to support that literary analysis. In week 5, you submitted a tentative thesis statement for the week 7 research essay. So that's kind of the big culmination, is the week 7 research essay is the big culmination of everything we've been doing in the course so far. Okay, so week 5 is really one of the first parts of that, where you developed a research question around the stories that you've chosen, a tentative thesis statement, and some of you even started looking at some of the sources that you're going to use, kind of give you an idea of where you're going to be heading with that topic. Okay, remember, this is an argument paper that you're going to be writing, so you have to have a claim that you were making about these stories that we've been reading these past few weeks. Okay, so this part, the week 6 response paper, is annotated bibliography. Whatever those two words mean to you, that they tend to throw students off, so I want to go through some of the details so you'll be successful in this. So this is really the nitty-gritty research part of the process that we are following through with for that week 7 research essay. So this is the research part of that. So when you're doing research, and I'm going to pull up the GMC library so you get a good look for it if you haven't been there before, just feel a little bit more uncomfortable about it. Once you start looking for how you're going to support your argument, you need to kind of decide, because sometimes you'll find a source and think that it sounds good, because there's usually just a little brief detail about the source before you would actually read it. And then if you start reading it, you realize this isn't really what I thought it was going to talk about. It's really focused more on plot summary, and I know that we're not supposed to do that for this research essay, or it really just doesn't support the claim that you want to make in your week 7 research essay. So you're going to annotate your sources. You're going to read the sources that you've selected and figure out, what is this source trying to say about this story. And these are people who are a part of the larger conversation in the world of literature. These are people who may be so-called experts, or they've researched it. Somehow they have some kind of a credibility for whatever journal that they're writing for to be able to write something like that. So, and I bring up that part about being a part of the conversation. You guys are a part of that now, because you're getting familiar with the authors, the different sources that have already been written about the authors or the stories themselves, the different literary theories. So you're all part of that conversation. And just to tie this in and how this looks for you outside of English class, because I would take a bet that most of you probably aren't English majors. But it's still the same type of thing. You still need to learn the terms of your of your major. You need to learn who are the big players, who are the people that are talking about it, who are doing the research, who have the information. You need to go into the library and be familiar with that. And you need to be familiar with what's being said about the different topics in your major. So those things are similar. So I want to tie that in, because I know sometimes students feel a little frustrated because they're like, well, we're reading these stories. What does this have to do with me as a student? These are still some of the same steps that you will take on any type of a research. Okay, laying down that foundation, doing the initial readings, becoming familiar with the topic, and that's what we're doing here. So back to the annotated bibliography. This is you picking a minimum of 3 sources from the GMC library, from the literary databases, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. And you're going to annotate them. You know, what is this person trying to say about the story or the author? Is it worthwhile to your paper? You may find that you thought this was a really great article to read, but it was a little too biased and you really didn't feel like you found anything that's going to support your argument for your paper. Okay, so you're really kind of trying to decide, are these sources worthwhile for my research essay that I'm going to be finishing up for week 7. Okay, so you're going to have 3 literary research sources. These sources are only going to be coming from the GMC library, and I'll tell you why. Because there are tons of resources there, and I know these stories pretty well, and I know you're going to find things. The other part of that about being a college student is you don't want to always rely on Google. I know you know how to Google and probably do it very well. However, you want to be able to do scholarly research in an institution. And here's the other bonus. As a college student here at GMC, you have access to the library, and in turn the library has institutional subscriptions that you can't find in a Google research or a Google search. Okay, so that's the other thing. You're going to have access to sources that you wouldn't be able to find on your own. Okay, so I want to kind of reiterate too that everything you're doing in this paper is with the thesis that you created in week 5, and that thesis is directly related to the stories and authors. Sometimes I have students who just kind of hear research, and so they just pick a topic that they would like to, but everything is directly related to this course. So it's going to be the stories and the authors that we read in this course. And the other thing is you're going to be picking literary sources. So you're going right to the experts. For example, sometimes students want to write about Edgar Allan Poe. There's a lot of psychological things, obviously, that goes along with Edgar Allan Poe and the Telltale Heart. So sometimes they want to be like, oh, I'm going to go look in psychology, but I don't want you to do that because that is not directly related to literature. So you're going to be using the literature databases. Okay, so I just have here on the screen the directions for the annotated bibliography. So make sure that you're reading through that. Students lose points when they first don't pick from the literary database. Second, they don't have a thorough annotation that really discusses what that source is about. And they also don't sometimes miss, is this going to be worthwhile for your thesis? And it does. If you find a source and you have read it and you've spent time with it and you already started writing your annotated bibliography and you're like, I don't think that I want to use this, you can say that, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that these are the only sources that you're going to use. Okay? So it's kind of a way of vetting your sources. All right. So before we go to the library, I just want to remind you in the announcements, I have some other little tidbits for you of making sure that you're getting all your points for this assignment. What is annotated bibliography? This is MLA formatted. It gives you kind of an idea on that, and then just some FAQs for that, and then some screenshots of the library, but I'm going to show you that right now. And please, if you do not realize that the librarians are there to help you, you should, because they are, and they are experts at research. A lot of times students get caught up with using the correct words and the keywords and the search words, and they would be able to help you do that, and you have that information there. So make sure, don't get frustrated, use them, use them for, their expertise. Okay, so I kind of have it already started here, but I wanted to, if you just end up here, let me see. So this is when the first page that you're going to see on the library. Okay, and this is just the general part. But what I would like for you to do, and you can play around with this. I mean, you're not going to break anything. You can, click through some things. There's lots of support and help for you in this library. But right here is a lot of things that you're going to want to be using. Okay, and I'm going to direct you to right to the library guides. Okay, so they have put together library guides for different courses. So in some of your other major career field courses, they may have some of those library guides. So we have one for English literature. So you can go right to that. And if you're going to be taking any other classes, well, you would have already used this for English 101. I guess they really don't have any other English classes listed here. Okay, so English 102, you can click right on that. So they have kind of right here, kind of like this is your little home for being able to look for things that we need for this class. A couple of these things are missing, I noticed. Okay, so this is right where you want to be. Okay, these are the literary databases. Bloom's Literature, that should sound familiar to you. Through this course, we have some of those sources already in our English 102 course, supporting the authors and the stories that we're reading. JSTOR is another database that has all kinds of different sources. The Literary Reference Center has, so these databases are just chock full of journal articles and sources that are directly related to all things literature, all kinds of authors and stories. That's why I want you to work in these literary databases. Bloom's is really good, but I prefer that you didn't use Bloom's because you already know what that looks like in our course. So I encourage you to use some of these other ones: the Literary Reference Center, Literature Resource Center, and the Writers Reference Center. Okay, and there's also some other sources on here for you to see. Kind of goes through just like some dictionaries and some different things you may need. These are just general databases, so I want you to stay with the literary ones for this course. And also right here for you is EasyBib and the online writing lab at Purdue. So these are the two sources that are going to be able to help you make sure everything is in MLA formatting. Okay. If you are unfamiliar with keyword searches, or if you're feeling like I'm not getting the sources that I want, kind of go through here and familiarize yourself, because sometimes it is how you are searching. Same thing with Google, that'll do that. Sometimes you switch it up a little bit, but watch this video, and I think there's another link in here too of what really helps you kind of narrow down what you would want. Okay, here's some information about that. There's also MLA style information. Yeah, this is where I knew there was a video that wasn't available, but here on the Purdue online writing lab, they do have that. Okay, and then here's your Ask Your Librarian. They are there to help. So good luck with everything this week. I know you're going to do great. Just make sure you're really taking the time to recognize what the assignment is asking, and you'll be fine. All right, I'll see you in class.